Hello, my lovely listeners. I'm Dr. Mary Barson.
And I'm Dr. Lucy Burns. Welcome to this episode of Real Health and Weight Loss. Good morning, gorgeous ones. Dr. Lucy here, fresh out of the pool on a brisk morning, chatting with my gorgeous colleague, Dr. Mary. Hello, gorgeous one. How are you?
I'm good. Do you remember last week was it last week? It was recently we were talking about me and my self-care.
Oh, yes.
Sure. I have done a little bit better, I think. So far, it's only been a day, but I'm confident about this one. 5 minutes meditation when I sit down at my desk.
Ooh, good.
We'll see how that one goes. Yep.
So do you do it before you start anything or as a break, or how have you?
Before I start.
Okay.
Yeah. I've organised childcare, I've done all the things, and then I'm here in my little office. I have an office now. It's also full of baby things, but it's also my space. And I would normally just do the work, probably, in various states of calm or panic. And I would just do the work because this is my time to work. But 5 minutes is a very doable little time to just turn on my parasympathetic nervous system, get a nice little relaxation response, and it is helpful.
Indeed. I love that. And, I love that idea that it's just 5 minutes. And, in fact, we have a meditation program that we recommend that people can buy if they'd like to. And it starts with 1 minute, because following on from that episode where we talk about shrink the change and all of those things, 1 minute, it's very hard for your brain to say, I don't have time for 1 minute. You do. And then the next day you do 2 minutes. And then the following day you do 3. And by the end of the month, if you want to, you're up to 30. But the great thing about that program is that you can stop. If you decide you actually only want to do 10, we just stop at day 10. That's then your new normal. So I do love that idea as well. Brilliant. So today I want to talk about something that we talk a lot about, but just as a reminder, and we're calling today's episode Peas in a Pod, because the two P's that we like to talk about are the physiology and the psychology of weight loss, neither of which sound like a P word.
No. It does remind me of my daughter has this great book. It's a picture book by Raj Halder, which is called P is for Pterodactyl, the world's worst alphabet book. And it just reminds me why I love the English language so much, because it's like P is for pterodactyl, T is for tsunami, G is for gnome, K is for knife.
I know.
A is for aisle. It's just beautiful.
Oh, that's hilarious. That is hilarious. Does it have one for every letter or just the main ones?
It does. Every
really?
letter. Yes.
Wow.
Yep. It's an excellent book. Yes. P is for pterodactyl.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I'm trying to wonder what the B word might be.
I think that was delium, which is that sap. People are going to know more about what delium is than me. But yeah, it's some sap that comes from a tree and has properties that people find valuable.
Right. And it starts with B but sounds like D.
Yep. Pretty much everything I know about delium I learnt from one page in this book.
Excellent. Yep, I love a good source of knowledge. So it's interesting. I mean, the physiology and the psychology, it's a fancy way of saying the mind and the body.
Yep.
And understanding those two, the way they work, I mean, and again, the mind and the body are not separate things. They're all part of the same thing, but they do have slightly, I guess, different processes. And so particularly weight management, we are always talking about the psychology and the physiology. It's actually the same with anything, isn't it? It's the same with, movement. There's some physiology involved and there's some psychology involved. Behavioural change is part of the psychology that we spend an enormous amount of time talking about because it's integral. I think you and I both used to, well, of course we grew up in the day where it was all just, to lose weight, it was diet and exercise. And the diet and exercise isn't low carb and enjoyable movement, which you could definitely rephrase as diet and exercise. It was eat less and move more.
Yep. Which didn't heal the physiology.
not at all. Not at all.
And was not good for your psychology.
No, because, for me, all exercise was, the motivation for me was always about weight loss. If I do 3 aerobic sessions today, I will be thinner tomorrow. Seriously, I firmly believed that. It was really, I remember going, now how's this for sort of diet culture? I remember going camping with 2 friends and we went mountain biking, and we did a lot of mountain biking and we ate good food. And I came home ready to leap on to the scales. I mean, I was only away 2 days, but I thought for sure I would be, in my brain, I decided I'd be 3 kilos lighter from all this exercise. So much exercise. I must be 3 kilos lighter. I got home. I was actually 2 kilos heavier. And I don't know, that emoji where the brain explodes? Yeah, that.
Yep.
I'm surprised there wasn't parts of my skull all over the roof.
Yep. You're probably feeling angry and
ripped off.
Or feeling all the feelings.
Yeah, of course, because, back then it was just all about weight loss. So never mind that I had a great time with my friends. Never mind that, I was out in beautiful countryside, riding up hills, riding down hills, camping by this magnificent creek. No, it was just all ruined by, getting on the scales. And, again, a couple of days later, when I'd done a big poop and, had a proper sleep on a proper bed, that, 2 kilos of presumably fluid and porridge had gone.
That's right. You're not alone. I think this type of thinking is extremely common. It's the legacy that we have culturally been handed from the toxic diet culture.
Yes.
Why I think that these 2 Ps, the physiology and the psychology, are so important is because they fit together and they help each other. So working on the psychology of weight loss, of metabolic health, just on its own without addressing the physiology is almost meaningless. Like it's pretty hard. Although it's not meaningless. That's not fair. There's lots of beautiful work that you could do on self-acceptance, on loving yourself, on healing your relationship with food. It's not useless. It's not, but it's missing a really important part, because if you've still got really high levels of insulin, and if you are metabolically unwell and your lipolysis is inhibited because of high insulin, that is, your fat stores are locked away in your metaphorical woodshed, you're going to be in the throes of, sugar high, sugar crash, feeling hungry. It's going to be physiologically an unpleasant place, also physiologically an unhealthy place. And although working on your mind is extremely useful, it's very difficult to do in that circumstance. And similarly, just working on healing your physiology. So healing your physiology, reducing your sugar and carb intake, healing insulin resistance, you get your hunger and normal hunger signals and satiety signals back online, your body heals, you get reduced inflammation. This is all really good, and this is a much more healthy place to be. But that in itself is usually not enough, because we live in a high carb world, and because we've got all these toxic messages from diet culture, and because many of us use food, understandably, culturally it's normalized, use food to soothe and reward and punish. And so they're completely enmeshed, and one doesn't work well without the other. But when you work on both, when you work on your physiology and you heal it, and your body heals, and your hunger and all those things normalize, and you work on your mind, they come back together, and they're way more than the sum of their parts.
Could not agree more. Could not. Because, it is. You're absolutely right. You can be in that space, which we love, of self-acceptance and prioritizing yourself and looking after your health. But if you're insulin resistant and you're drinking glasses of orange juice and eating lots of pasta and bread, even though they're foods that are considered healthy by our society, we know they're not going to actually help the physiology. They're not going to reduce insulin resistance. They're going to keep fat stores locked away. You're not going to have access to your beautiful fuel. You will be hungry. You will be tired. And so you're still not thriving in a way that, is available to you. Whereas if you have that knowledge of low carb and combine it with, as you've talked about, Maz, the self-acceptance and also the good enough philosophy, as we love, the idea that it doesn't have to be perfect, but it does have to be consistent. The idea of learning the stories in your head, understanding what are the loopholes, because our brain, clever brain, looks for loopholes. And there's no wonder it looks for loopholes because, there's that very, very famous saying that you can, have your cake and eat it too.
Yes.
And we all want that, don't we? Except that it's a bit of magical thinking. It is actually impossible to have your cake and eat it too if we actually do it literally. So why then are we constantly looking for that? Because that then causes us to be resentful perhaps if we find that we can't actually do that. It's a little bit like, and I mean, this is a complete digression, but for me as when I was certainly a new mum and this idea that you could do it all, that you could do it all perfectly, that you could go and have an incredible career, that you could have children and do that all perfectly well, that you could keep a clean house and tidy house and look like something off Home Beautiful, that you could do it all. That's actually a bit of a myth. You can't do everything perfectly. You can do it all, but nothing 100% because there's not 300% of us.
Yes. Yes. I'm having a little moment. I kind of wish there was 300% of me at times at the moment, but that's me, my brain doing the wishful thinking.
I know, you are not Hermione. You don't have one of those clock turner upperers.
Oh, yeah. Though, if you remember, Hermione got pretty tired and grouchy as she was living 3 lives. Yep, during that book. Harry Potter fans will appreciate that. Other people are like, what?
Yeah, indeed. Indeed. So, it is the two combined, we call them the keys, which now we know rhymes with peas. There's all sorts of echolalias that you can do around keys and peas and pods and all sorts of things.
And pterodactyls.
Yeah. But the thing that people, I think, and it is understandable, our brain is thinking, oh, that all sounds a bit hard. I don't want to do that. Just tell me what to do or show me what to eat. And so we're looking again for a shortcut. And again, a shortcut will work short term, a meal plan, follow this. There's a million meal plans. It's a bit like recipes. There's buckets of recipes. Recipes aren't your problem. Meal plans aren't your problem. If you're struggling, it's understanding those 2 keys or P's.
Yep. Heal the physiology and manage your psychology. And it's so much easier to start unpacking your stories in your head and to start analyzing your behavior around and relationship with food when you're not starving hungry.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. So if your body is well nourished and you're getting all the nutrients you need and you're feeling good and you're able to start naturally burning your fat stores and your body's really happy, that is a beautiful platform to start then working on your beautiful mind and understanding why it works the way it does, to start making those goals and figuring out how you're going to stick to them. And by doing that, you obviously continually improving your physical health, which is a great platform to continually improve your psychological health. And it just spirals upwards and upwards.
It's interesting. People can fall into 2 camps. Some people want to know all the rules. What are the rules? And, lots of questions we get. Can I eat this? Can I have that? And that's understandable. Again, that's what we've been conditioned to outsource, if you like, our food requirements or our food choices to meal plans and to points counting apps and all of those sorts of things. So we love the phrase that, you're the boss of you. You're grown up now. You get to actually decide what you want to do. The way I like to break it down, though, is that if you're making decisions that you regret, then something has to change. So if you decide in advance that you're going to go out and have cake and you enjoy it and it doesn't turn into a 6-month bender and you're happy with that, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. If you decide you're going to go out and not eat cake and then you've had a fight with your best friend before you go and so you think, stuff it, I'm going to eat the whole cake, and then the next day you're cross with yourself for doing that, well, then that's a decision that needs to be revisited and working out what was going on for me. That's always my sentence. What's going on for me? And you can do it in a beautiful, compassionate way so that when that situation happens next time, you can perhaps make a different decision. And this is the thing that I think is that sometimes people can struggle with, because what they'll do is feel like they've failed because, they went out, they weren't going to eat the cake, they ate the cake, they didn't just eat one piece, they ate the whole lot. And so they feel like a failure. And when we feel like a failure, we want to run away.
Mm-hmm. And hide. Yeah, it's a really common one.
Yeah, of course. Which makes sense, because why would you want to be, you don't want to pour over your failures if that's what your brain perceives it to be. Whereas Mary, I mean, you're the queen of this phrase, the compassionate scientist.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. This is the key for healing your physiology and managing your psychology is you have to be compassionate with yourself and experiment with yourself. So you set yourself the goals to eat low carb real food, or to move, or to do the meditations, to relax, to go to bed on time, all of these things that we know will help heal your physiology. And you set yourself some achievable goals and you have a go. And then you need to review. You need to be a scientist. You need to collect the data. You need to review how you are going, weekly, fortnightly, daily, whatever works for your brain, but review it with curiosity and without judgment. And then you say, wow, that didn't work. I was going to have my chicken and salad for lunch, but every day this week I've eaten the savoury muffin from the cafe next door because I never ever bring my lunch. And rather than I am hopeless and stupid, I just can't do this, or hiding or not wanting to review the facts, not wanting to think about it, think, okay, so what can I do different? Be your compassionate scientist and just keep learning. My little Bubba, so cute. He's like learning to walk. He can't walk yet, but he is really, 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 he's almost ready. And he can crawl and he can climb. And I watch him, and children are just such beautiful examples of their own compassionate scientist. He's just sort of like, what happens if I do this? And that didn't work. Okay, what happens if I do it this way? Oh, that didn't work. And yeah, certainly he can climb on top of the couch and fall off and hurt his head and cry. Fortunately, not badly.
Yes. And hopefully he's learning that maybe I won't do that again.
Exactly. Yeah. But as he learns and he tries, he just keeps going. He doesn't judge. If the first little failure, he doesn't sort of start, well, okay, obviously walking's not for me. Obviously can't do it. So, oh, well, that's a shame,
Yeah, guess I'm just destined to sit here for the rest of my life.
That's right. He's not susceptible to these unhelpful thoughts as we grown-ups can be. So be your compassionate scientist. And with science, I was a scientist. I worked at the Walter and Eliza Hall Institute before I did medicine. And with science, there is no such thing as a failed experiment. By and large, you get negative results or positive results, essentially. I can remember when I started my honours year, I was working on genomics and proteomics of a parasite called Leishmania major. And
sorry, my brain's done that exploding thing again. Another emoji.
Yeah. It was good fun. It was great. It was back in the sort of the golden days of genomics. It was very, very exciting. And so the Leishmania genome had been sequenced and it was in a draft form. I mean, nowadays they can sequence a genome, 5 minutes on a standard laptop. But back then, the technology, it took a while, and it was great. We had this draft genome, and one of my lab was like, okay, so Leishmania is this terrible illness that wreaks havoc across the globe. Let's use this data and try and find some novel gene targets or vaccine candidates. Let's go to work. So we data mined this genome. and tried to find in particular genes that didn't look anything like human genes, for example, because that's a really good drug target to look at. You don't want to give a drug to a human that's going to kill the human as well as the parasite. That's not good medicine. So in the first instance, we were like, okay, what can we find here? And at the start of my honours project, we pulled out these genes that were like nothing like anything we'd find in a mammal. And it was like, what are these? It's so exciting. And then we did all this sort of work to try and figure out there. And 4 months later, we're like, they were bacterial contamination. So they weren't actually real Leishmania genes. And sure, it was disappointing. I'm not going to lie that was disappointing, but it wasn't useless. This wasn't useless, wasted time, because we had found something out that was now useful for the entire globe to know, see that bit? That's not a thing. That's not the bit that we want. That's not helpful. And it was useful to know that that's not helpful. So we did actually move human knowledge forward. And then we did find some genes that were really to Leishmania, and, I got a cute little honours project out of it. It was all good fun.
Oh, wonderful. But you know what I love in what you've said there is, though, that sometimes it is useful to know what isn't helpful.
Absolutely. It's useful to know what isn't helpful. And I tried that and it didn't work. Let's try something else.
Yeah. And same with us. If you're trying something and it's not working, then you know that thing is not helpful. So therefore, then you need to change it. You can't just keep doing that unhelpful thing, hoping that it'll become helpful. Can you imagine if you'd spent another year going, surely that bit of genome is part of it. It can't possibly not be. We've spent so much already on it. We're just going to keep going.
And it's tempting to do that, because we have our cognitive bias and we get this, it's a sunk cost psychology. But it is useful that isn't how scientists think, by and large. I mean, obviously we bring our human biases to everything, but by and large, that's not how scientists think or how scientists work. And there are no failures. There's just negative results, and negative results is useful data for us to continue to move forward.
Absolutely. And, I can think of a really practical example in this situation. Again, just bringing it back to weight management. I used to think that if I was going out for dinner, that I didn't want, it was going to be and again, back in calorie counting days, it would be a high calorie meal. So therefore I won't eat during the day because I'm going to save up all my calories for when I eat this meal. And what would often happen was that I would actually go on a bit of a bender whenever I was out. And it became apparent that this technique wasn't actually serving me well. I probably ate 3 times the amount of food that I would normally eat at a meal. And, and again, if we're thinking of calories, I probably ate twice the amount that I would normally consume in a day. So I then, after a while, thought, you know what, how about I stop this rubbish? And this is different to fasting, which we recommend as a therapeutic tool, not as a means to control weight in relation to going out for food or whatever. So then I thought, well, how about I try this experiment? How about I just actually have some lunch and maybe even, a piece of cheese before I go and see how that goes. And that, my friends, was so much better because all of a sudden I wasn't literally starving and wolfing down food like there was no tomorrow. And sort of my brain thinking this is its last supper, quick, eat as much as you want. It was a much better way for me to approach going out than just this other way. Now, again, that's what worked for me. That might not work for you. You might be happy to go and, go, oh, well, I'd rather fast and then just eat my meal when I go out. And that might be the experiment that works for you. But you have to know what works for you and what doesn't. And if something's not working for you, as the old phrase goes, don't keep flogging a dead horse.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I don't know why.
Right.
It's not. Do not think too much pictorially about that. I know it's like skin a cat. How many ways to skin a cat? We have some awful phrases, but anyway.
Einstein had a good one. Is it to expect different results from doing the same thing is the definition of insanity?
Yes.
I'm poorly quoting Albert Einstein there. Sorry, dear listeners, for mangling that.
I don't think you did. I think it is. And insanity is doing the same thing but expecting a different outcome.
Yep.
Yes. Yes. And I'm not entirely sure if that's actually the definition of insanity. It's probably more the definition, because where there is a medical definition. But yes, it is certainly a well-known phrase, and you're right. And so, lovelies, if, again, this is the whole thing, if you've been dieting your whole lives and focused on calorie restriction and worried about calories all the time, and, you know, if that's not working out for you, time to do something different. And with that, of course, leads into the idea that we have got an ebook for you called The Doctor's Guide to Real Health and Weight Loss. You can download it for free. It goes through the woodshed analogy, gives you the green list, the red list, the orange list, gives you the golden rules, lots and lots of goodness in this book. You can take this book and it will be, you know, it's step one on your journey to real health and weight loss.
And to healing the physiology and managing the psychology.
Indeed. All right, gorgeous ones. Have a beautiful, beautiful week, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.
So, my lovely listeners, that ends this episode of Real Health and Weight Loss. I'm Dr. Lucy Burns.
And I'm Dr. Mary Barson. We're from Real Life Medicine. To contact us, please visit rlmedicine.com.
And until next time, thanks for listening. The information shared on the Real Health and Weight Loss podcast, including show notes and links, provides general information only. It is not a substitute, nor is it intended to provide individualized medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment, nor can it be construed as such. Please consult your doctor for any medical concerns.